My name is Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who loves to play with paper. Today, I'm going to show you how to make this very pretty Christmas card. I'm going to give you a tip to make sure your trees look like they're receding in the background and how to add a little sparkle to your card. As you watch my video, I will be sharing tips on how to make your paper crafting easier and your projects look great. I'm going to show you step by step how to make this card. You can find a complete list of supplies and directions on my blog, www.scrappinwithjoni.com. All right, let's begin. Our card base is a color called Mossy Meadow, and as I said, all the supply directions are on my blog, but this one is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. We're going to begin by folding our card base. I like to start out straight and then I know I'm going to end up straight. So I'm just going to fold it in half. If you like to make sure you have a really crisp fold, you can use, I'm using a bone folder from Stampin' Up! You can do that. If you don't have one of those, you can just grab your scissors and use the end of that. Okay, let's look at our card front. We're going to begin by stamping those trees, and we want our trees to be to the top part of our card. I chose to use the tree and the sentiment from Winter Woods. It's a great stamp set that's carried over into our new annual catalog. I have my stamp on a clear block, and when I'm inking up a stamp of this size, I find I get better ink coverage if I'm going to take the ink to the stamp. So I'm just getting ink, and you can look and see if you think you have ink everywhere you need it. The other thing you want to quick look and see is do you have ink where you don't need it. And I see right here I have ink up here at the corner. So we're just going to pull that off so that doesn't show up on my card. Otherwise, I think I'm pretty good. Okay, so today, because I'm going to ink this 3 times without re-inking, I need my ink to really do some hard work. So I'm going to give it a little help. The stamp, I'm just going to put it on something padded. I'll get a little better image. I'm going to start, about a 1/2 inch from the top. It doesn't matter. And with this stamping, it really doesn't matter. When you're stamping, you're going to push down, count to 5, and come straight back up. Now, without re-inking, I'm going to stamp again to one side and slightly higher than my image. Going a little bit higher and not re-inking are the things that will make it look like it's receding in the background. There's my next tree. But by now, there's not a lot of ink left on my stamp. And I want a light image, but I still want to see the tree. So this is what I'm going to do. Off camera, I'm huffing, which means to breathe heavily. And I'm just kind of moisturizing, adding a little moisture to the ink that's left on there. Again, I'm going to go to the side and up again. And I'm going to push down. And there we go. We have a tree in the center, which we want to be our focus. I'm closing my ink pad because no one can get into ink quicker than I can. And now I want to add some more focus to that tree in front. So I'm going to grab my Wink of Stella pen, and think of Wink of Stella as a glitter pen. And when it's been sitting in my craft box for a little bit, I want to shake it up. Just moving things around, and now I'm going to ink up just the center tree because that's what I want the focus to be on. And while I know it's a little hard to see it on camera, what it's doing is just adding a bit of glimmer. The other thing it does, it looks like I have a couple spots here where I didn't grab as much ink as I wanted. I can pull ink into those spots with my glimmer pen. It adds a nice little bit of shading. As you can see, it takes really no time at all. And we're good. I'm going to set this aside. I like to do all my stamping first and give my stamps just that couple seconds of drying before I begin to assemble. Our Stampin' Up! Inks do well on our Stampin' Up! Paper, and it isn't like they're going to smear a lot, but let's just make it easier on them. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. The other stamping we need to do today is we're going to stamp the sentiment on the front, and we need to stamp the inside of our card. So I'm using a Stamparatus, which is a stamp placement tool. It's so much more than that, but a stamp placement tool is any device that helps you align your stamps and to stamp more than once without needing to move things around. And so what I do is I draw the shapes I need to stamp. So it's pencil line, it's probably hard to see, but I've drawn the shape of the inside of my card. I have also drawn the shape of that little label I want to use. And once I have that done, I actually stamp on my grid paper. That really helps me see if I'm straight or not. So this is going in the corner, and I do that when I'm doing two things at once because that corner acts as another way to hold it in place, okay? And there we go. All right, and then if you're doing two things, I like to butt them up against each other. That also helps hold them in place. Your Stamparatus comes with two really strong magnets. I wrap duct tape around them with a little handle. That does two things. If they would fly together, which can happen easier than you think, they're less likely to shatter. And if they do shatter, the pieces aren't going everywhere. And if they just lock together, it's easier to pull them apart with a little handle. So I'm going to stamp at the same time my card insert and my label for the front. I like to use a little ink pad on here. We sell these uninked spots, and I just use an ink refill to put the color in that I want. I find that I get better coverage. I don't get as much ink on my plate if I can use a smaller one. Did you notice I just stuck my stamp case under there? When my plate is level, again, it's a little easier to ink. And if you can do these things and make it easier on your card, why not? Okay, so I've inked them up. I'm going to close my plate and push down. Just use a little muscle here. And the wonderful thing about Stamparatus is if I don't get the image I want, because nothing has moved, I can just ink again. Ooh, but I like how that one turned out. We're good. Okay, I'm going to pull these apart. Get that out of there. There we go. All right. Let's do some assembly. I'm just separating things here and pulling them apart. Okay. So on my card front, which is my trees, I'm going to add this piece of silver. This is our silver foil, and I've embossed it with the Dainty Diamonds, which is one of my favorite new embossing folders. I just want to show you a little closer up. I took a sheet of silver foil, a scrap I had, and I embossed the whole sheet rather than emboss the strips, and it's easier to emboss one sheet and then cut the strips as you need them. Notice mine is a little longer than my card front too. Guys, sometimes I just struggle a little bit to get things straight, and even if you're a 1/16 of an inch off, sometimes then I have a little bit of white showing, which drives me nuts. So rather than keep trimming my card, if I start with a longer strip, it's easier to trim this strip. I know from having made this card before, I want it to be about 3/4 of an inch up. On my grid paper, that's going to be 3 squares. I'm using a liquid adhesive today. You're going to have the most success for the most part. You know, sometimes it's special projects require special adhesive. But typically, use the adhesive you're most comfortable using. This is really strong. The other thing I like about this is I have a little bit of time to readjust if I get it wrong. So that's an easy thing to do too. So I'm going to line this up, go up 3, because I want it to be 3/4 of an inch, and just lay it down. I know it's straight because I have both grid marks, and it takes me no time at all just to snip those ends. Less time than to try to redo it or play with it to make sure I have it straight. So I'm going to trim here. And I'm going to trim here. There we go. All right, I'm now going to attach this to my card front. I like to attach it to the card front before I add the label or other pieces because they're going to bulk up a little bit. I'm going to use dimensionals, and it's a little harder to line it up once you have all those pieces on there. I find it easier to get things lined up if I open my card front. It's really what works for you. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of a liquid adhesive on here. You don't need a lot, but you do kind of want it in the corners so you don't have the corners of your cards coming off. I like how strong this adhesive is, so I know when my cards arrive, they're not going to arrive in pieces. There we go. All right. Now, this, I have 2 pieces for my label. I die cut from Tasteful Labels, a new label die in our Stampin' Up! Catalog. 2 labels. This is vellum. Vellum is an opaque paper, and it just adds a little bit without adding another color to my card, which I wanted. I wanted to stay with the greens and the metallics. And vellum looks a little bit like snow, actually. The only thing about using vellum is you can see your adhesive through it. So you sometimes want to put a label or something else over it. So I'm going to put adhesive just through the center. It doesn't need a lot. It's not a heavy paper. So I'm just going to do a strip through there. And I'm going to set it right here. There we go. Now we stamped our label right there. I'm going to use dimensionals, which are these little pop dots, you might call them. I'm sure you have something in your crafting box, but they add some lift. They are already sticky on the back, and all you have to do then, so they're sticky going down, and you're going to peel off the next set of paper there. I'm using our Take a Pick tool. Use whatever works for you. There we go. All right, those are all off. Then I'm just going to center it on the label and on the vellum. There we go. All right, so I have silver here, and I wanted to add a little bit of sparkle to a Christmas tree. So I grabbed our rhinestones. And I'm again using my Take a Pick tool. There's adhesive on the back, and I'm just going to lift up. I'm going to put some down here. If you've seen me make cards before, you know I really like to add things in odd numbers to embellishments. There we go. So I have them there. Oops, that one's not straight. Let's get that adjusted a little bit. You can still move it around. There. Now let's add a little bit of glimmer to that tree. So I don't like things in a row. I'm just randomly adding. Random is hard for me. I always kind of want to line things up. There we go. Move that over. I have all the directions for this on my blog. I have directions on how to make it, and I have a supply list so you know everything I used. There. Okay, guys, this would be a great card to make in multiples. It really didn't take that long, and you could cut all your silver strips, cut all your labels, and you saw how I could stamp both the inside of the card and the front at the same time. It didn't take a lot. I want to show you, you could also do it in gold. And I like that you can have some difference. It's a great way to use up metallic. My directions on my blog also indicate what I used. I used the gilded gems for the gold. So that's an easy thing to do. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I often like to decorate my envelopes. I don't like sending out naked envelopes, and often I use a strip of our print paper that I've used in my card. I haven't used any print paper in this card. So instead, I embossed my envelope flap with the same embossing folder that I used for the foil. I hope you found this card helpful, the card tutorial helpful. If you're looking for new card ideas, I include a new card project with supply lists and directions in my Sunday night email. You can sign up for my email on my blog. If you're interested in seeing other videos, I'd really appreciate a like on this video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, I also have a Scrappin' with Joni Facebook page, and I do 2 lives a week on there on Monday and Thursday night. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, keep crafting.